Hey, welcome CFFers. We are hosting the Tennessee Filmmaker Block Q&A. And to give you a little bit of backstory, I'm Chris Dortch Sr., by the way, not to be confused with my son. I'm the one with a lot of gray hair. He's the one with just a little bit, but that'll change. Yeah, this is one of the blocks that I have participated in since the film festival started in 2014. And it's really been cool to shine a spotlight on filmmakers who are from our state. And as we've gone on, the block has changed a little bit and the boundaries loosened a little bit. Sometimes the films are about people in Tennessee. Sometimes they're made by people in Tennessee. Sometimes they're by students who just live in Tennessee temporarily and move on. But generally, it all has to do with our home state. So without further ado, I do want to mention our sponsor, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission. And it's kind of funny. People the world over think of Tennessee as a music state. And that's understandable. Nashville's the music city. A little thing called rock and roll was invented by Elvis and the boys in Sun Records in Memphis. I believe it was the Carter family in Bristol, Tennessee, who gave us country music. So yeah, people are going to think of Tennessee as a music state, but it's also a state where films are made. I know this for a fact. I played a sports writer, which big stretch. I am a sports writer in real life in the movie 42. Yeah, I got to be around the Black Panther, the late, great Chadwick Boseman, for a few minutes and watch his process. That was cool. But I can tell you with absolute certainty that the production company of 42 loved shooting in Chattanooga. They had locations around the South, and they really, really loved Chattanooga and everything that it had to offer. And the state of Tennessee is like that. So our sponsor, the TEC, wants you to know that we've got such diverse topography from the Smoky Mountains to the Mississippi Delta and everything in between. And we just wanted to thank the TEC for the support they've given us since 2014. They've been with us since the beginning. They haven't run us off yet, and we're doing our best to keep that relationship going. Thanks to Bob Raines and his whole crew. So we've got the housekeeping part out of the way, and now we're going to talk a little bit about story with our three filmmakers who have participated. The Tennessee Filmmaker Block, as always, was a solid representation of the kind of talent that we have in this state. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and mention your film, and we'll get to it. Whoever wants to start.
Hi,
Go ahead.
I'm Chandler Gibson. I'm the director, writer, producer, and editor for Days Counted, and I shot it, filmed it, everything here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So yeah,
that's cool.
Thank you.
Matt, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Eslinger. I made Shapes Variation 3, directed, produced, wrote, animated, scored. And it's an honor to be here. Thank you all so much.
And Noah.
That leaves me. I'm Noah Glenn. I'm the co-writer and director of The Devil Will Run. And I'm over down in the corner in Memphis. So glad to be here.
Which goes back to my point. We're represented from the eastern part of Tennessee to the western part. So glad to have you all here. And I just wanted to start out. We talked a little bit before we got live about what I do. I'm a career journalist and I teach it at the university level. And the thing that's most compelling to me about teaching the art of writing is finding the story. And inspirations for that, I teach my students how to find the great story, how to tell the great story. So when it comes to this, my son lets me come out and play a little bit in the festival, and this is one of the things I really enjoy. I just wanted to talk to you all a little bit about the inspiration that you had for your stories. So Noah, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration for your film, a little bit about the film, and how it all came together.
Yeah, so the Devil Will Run is about a 7-year-old boy who finds a hole in his backyard and worries that it's where the devil gets in and out. So it's it's about childhood anxiety and bullying and friendship and all sorts of different things. And the way it came about is, so actually I got a grant from the Indie Memphis Film Festival to make a different film back in the fall of 2019. And that film fell apart when the pandemic hit, and I was racking my brain for a new project to apply that grant towards. And one afternoon I was cleaning up and I put on a recording. I should probably mention I also do some podcasting. I have a children's mindfulness podcast called Like You. And I had, when I was developing that podcast, started reaching out to friends of mine to have discussions about their childhood. What was your childhood like? What are the memories that stand out from childhood? And a friend of mine who's a music producer, he goes by I Make Mad Beats. And we had a conversation that I happened to be recording. And he told me about being a young boy and finding a hole in his yard and worrying about the devil. And so something made me think back to that recording. I just put it on one day while I was cleaning up around the house and just listened over and over to our conversation, and a story started forming around it. I Make Mad Beats is also he's the narrator of the film, and most of his narration came from directly lifted from that conversation. And then I filled in the story around it, kind of based on my experience with an older brother who was kind of a bully, and formed the rest of the story around that.
That's great. Matt, tell us a little bit about how you hit on the idea of your film.
Sure. It was Shapes Variation 3, which leads one to think that there must have probably been a 2 and a 1, which there is. And the music for 3 is kind of a spin-off from 1. It's real similar. And a friend of mine named Eddie Bridges, was making these shapes, these dodecahedrons and the little reptiles that you see in the film. And I had the idea, like, how great it would be to animate them. In particular, there's an MC Escher, the artist from the 20th century. He had a piece that he did. I think it was a lithograph, but I might be wrong, called Reptiles. He did it in the 1940s. And it depicts kind of the transition between the 2D world of these flat drawings on this notebook, and then you see the reptiles kind of coming out into 3 dimensions and walking around the entire piece and then falling back into the 2D shapes. And I thought how neat it would be to animate that. And at the time, there was a lot of really heavy stuff going on for me personally, as well as just in the world. And so I had the idea of taking the figure that's in it, which is made by a company called Sticky Bones. And it's just the best articulated figures on the planet, in my opinion. They're just fantastic what you can do with them. But that being kind of the centerpiece of what was going to go against or be juxtaposed against these reptiles. And so I just kind of combined all those things and just started storyboarding and coming up with ideas as far as how it would go, and pieced it all together and shot it over, I'd say about a month, about 2 months it took. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I really enjoyed it. We'll get more to that later. Chandler, tell us a little bit about Days Counted and where the idea for that came from.
So I have been rewriting Days Counted for a very long time. It wasn't originally called Days Counted. It was called some kind of Latin name that I've completely forgot what it means and stuff. So I have no clue. But it started with like an I. And then I was like, I wanted to make something less than 5 minutes, and that just got to the point very quickly and such, But I was just like, I don't really like what I'm writing right now. So I just kept on rewriting it because writing is rewriting. And then eventually, like as I was writing it, there was a moment in the dialogue where like the character says, "Why do you think I count the days?" And then I was like, wait a minute, Days Counted. That sounds like a short film name. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'll just use that. But the way I usually come up with my stories is like I'll watch some other form of media, whether it be another film, a TV series, playing a video game, reading a comic book, reading a book and stuff, and then I'll like pick and pull stuff that I like from it and stuff, and then try to articulate like a story from that. So I was heavily influenced by and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this is on Netflix, Mindhunter, David Fincher's Mindhunter. It's all about talking to serial killers and stuff and trying to like figure out why did they do these horrific crimes and stuff. And that's pretty much what I wanted to like, figure out. But like none of the way is like, why did you do it? But do you regret doing it? So that's the entire movie in a nutshell. It's like, do you regret what you did so many years ago that you can feel sympathy and sorry and just regret about it. And that's the other reason why I didn't give my characters names and stuff, because they're almost like a surrogate. So it's almost like something that you may have did or somebody else may have like done in the past. You can almost relate to that, but not as horrible as what the character did in this movie, of course, but something along the lines of that. So that's where I got it from.
It's great, great story.
Thank you.
No, I'm very impressed with the work that you do. You mentioned your podcast for children and helping them. Let's face it, we've all been there. It ain't easy, especially when you get into your teen years. So, how did you get into that? And now that you've made a film, will you continue to do so?
Yes. So yeah, I've got sort of two overlapping creative pursuits that this film brings together in a way that I didn't actually plan or anticipate. So this is my third short film, and I had never thought I was making films specifically for children. It's just making films. And then I'm a dad, and when I became a dad, I started, watching lots of, children's TV and movies, and I don't know, I connected with that, and I also saw the, Chandler said, writing is rewriting, or rewriting is writing, however you say it, but I think parenting is like that, is like reliving your childhood and re-understanding why you liked certain things, why you turned out a certain way. So I've always been really interested in what happens early in childhood and how it shapes us and develops us. And that led to this work I was doing in the podcast world. And so when I wrote this film, I wasn't thinking of it as a children's film. The main character was a child, but it wasn't until I've completed the film and started submitting it to film festivals, and a few children's film festivals popped up as potential places to submit, that I said, I guess this could be for kids. It's about kids. It's, but one thing we talked about, my composer, who is also the co-writer, producer, was that this is, for an adult watching this movie, it's it's a drama. There's some funny parts to it. It's definitely not anything close to horror for an adult viewer. But we wanted, as he was composing the music, I said, I want this music to feel like if you were a 7-year-old boy, like, it feels scary. This is very serious. You found this hole. You think that's where the devil lives. Like, that's something that, or just honoring the, not looking down at what, we might think, well, that's kind of a childish thought to think about, oh, could the devil really live in this hole? But we wanted to not look down at it, but to say, like, for a child who's experiencing that, that's a real feeling. That's a real problem. That's a real scary thing to have to deal with. So we wanted to bring that through to the film. Moving forward, like, as I said, I feel like I've had kind of some parallel, like, film over here, children's stuff over here, and this brought them together unintentionally. I'm hoping moving forward to be more intentional about, so I'm working on my first feature script that's
Awesome.
yeah, about a young girl discovering well, I won't get into it too much because I'm still
Good luck with it
developing
anyway.
Yeah.
Matt, I went onto your website, and first of all, I want you to tell people a little bit about Skeleton Key Workshop, but I also got to point out that your film clocks in 1:15, but on your website it says it took somewhere around 2 months to complete. So tell us about Skeleton Key, and then talk to us about the process of bringing your film from idea to fruition.
Sure. Pardon me. Well, Skeleton Key it's called the Skeleton Key Workshop. And what I'm doing is I'm building a stop motion animation studio here in Chattanooga. That's going to be heavily collaborative. I want to work with as many artists from both Chattanooga and the area as we can. And my thought on it is it's going to be basically kind of threefold. One will just be kind of personal projects, not unlike shapes and stuff like that. Two will be the for hire stuff, as far as like more commercial things, like the video I did last year for a band here in Chattanooga called Heavy Comforter. And so kind of commercial stuff like that. And then thirdly and finally, what I would like to do is do some kind of like actual workshop in the community where folks could come in and basically build their own puppets, and then they're taught how to animate them. And at the end of the workshop, you get to leave with a video, an MP4 that you can upload to, your social media or whatever to share with the world. So it's kind of threefold that way. The whiteboard back here, all of this is ideas and various artists that I'd like to work with. And so that's what Skeleton Key is. Actually, I'm representing, this is a shirt here, representing a little, and then, yeah, as far as the process, I like to storyboard everything. And what I normally do is I'll upload my initial storyboard, which is usually just sketches, into Premiere and Premiere Pro. And then I'll shoot a scene, and then that scene gets put over the top, and that becomes storyboard 2. And then I'll shoot another scene, and that scene gets put over the top of that storyboard until finally, after so many iterations, I'm up to, like, say, I think for Shapes 3, it was probably around 12 or 13 storyboards, to where when it's finally done, you've got the finished film. And yeah, it's really meticulous. You have to shoot frame by frame, and that was shot at 12 frames per second. So every second was 12 frames of something moving. And, for example, the scene where that's based off of the Escher print, where you see the reptiles walking around, that 2D thing that's kind of shifting like a clock in the center. That was the kind of thing where, like, shooting at 12 frames per second, I would say prop each reptile up and shoot 5 frames, and then move them just a little bit forward and put them down, and then I'd shoot 6. And then I'd move them a little forward, and I'd lift up the right side, shoot 5 frames, then push them down and move them a little bit forward, and then shoot 6, so that it gives them this motion where they were falling into rhythm with the music itself. And for other type animations, I'll build puppets. And so that in and of itself can take, quite some time to get the puppet right, from the armature up. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
No, it definitely does. Chandler, I thought your film was both eerily and expertly shot. Can you tell us the process and the look that went into the look of it?
All right. So I basically, like I said, like before, like, trying to grab like, different like films and different like shows, some aspects I like from them and whatnot. I wanted to make sure that this film had like a very dark and moody feel to it. So one of my best friends, Christian Eves, like I've worked with him for so many years now. I mean, probably like 6 or 7, but like he pretty much inspired me to make films in the first place, and that's why I wanted him to be my DP and stuff. So I literally created a lookbook of everything that I wanted to like for the film to like look and feel and stuff. And I pretty much showed him, and then we talked about it, and then we went through it and whatnot. But all I just said to him was like, make it look like Mindhunter. I'm like, just straight out. I did show him like a few other examples from David Fincher's Seven and like a few others.
I think you got there.
Oh yes, thank you, sir. Christian Eves did like a fantastic job. So I just want to give him a shout out if he's watching this Q&A right now. So
I hope so.
Yep. So
Noah, without giving anything away, your film has an ending that where the blanks could be filled in by the viewer. Like, is it or isn't it? Did you mean for that to be the case?
Yeah, I think I always, with every film I've done, I want to leave space for the viewer to kind of project their lives into the story and find the meaning for themselves. I think I want to clearly have a voice and make a statement, but I don't want to, force someone towards one certain conclusion, but to kind of set things up in a way that leaves the space to even the concept itself of it really, I'd say throughout every film I've done is this idea of like, it's basically set in a real world, but I always want there to be one detail that feels just a little bit off center and just a little bit unrelatable, because I think that makes it it forces you to say, well, I never thought the devil lived in my yard. And that separation from the specific part of the film makes you insert your own, like, I've never thought that, but I did worry about this other thing. So I'm going to interpret the whole film through my experience of this other thing that I worried about, and just let it be a metaphor for that other experience that I had in my life. So I always try to keep, that the space for people to find their story within the story that I'm telling.
I mean, I took away from it, like some of the very best Twilight Zone episodes. It's like, did the kid see something, or is this just him being a kid? And that uncertainty, I think, to me at least, is what I enjoyed about the film. Again, not to give away anything, but it's cool how, and good songs are this way too. And it's why artists are reluctant to explain what they meant when they wrote their lyrics. They don't want to ruin anything that you thought about the lyrics. They want you to go ahead and because the reality may be so disappointing from the listener's reality. And that's what I like about films like the one you did, because you can sort of, I don't know, add your own ending. So kudos for that.
I mean, I think certainly it's about a boy who kind of figured out how to overcome a problem that he was having, and had a triumphant moment. I think we can say without giving too much away.
Yeah.
And beyond that, there's lots of space to draw your conclusions.
Matt, I told you off air that your film is damn compelling, but the score, which you wrote and played, is its equal. Tell us about your dual role as a musician and a person who is talented enough to score your own work.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, it kind of goes back to that first variation that I did on it, which was just called Shapes. And I had the idea of, doing an entire series that's based around shapes doing things. And I thought it would be neat to have an underlying theme, musical theme, a motif that keeps getting repeated throughout the series. And what I normally do is I'll write it out. Well, it depends. I've occasionally had people come in and record some of my work. I did a piece of chamber music a few years back, and actually Gordon Chandler came in and played bass clarinet on it. And that's for a piece that's coming down the road. But a lot of the time what I'll do is this open source software called MuseScore, where you can go in and actually write out a full, multi-page score if you want. You can pull in, strings and percussion and, all these different elements. And then I'll export it out as a wave, and I can just import that in. And then sometimes I'll actually play the actual instrument myself and record that over it, and then just, kind of blend it all together in something like Audacity or something like that. I try to use as much open source and free software as I can, but I also really like Premiere and After Effects too. So, but yeah, that's kind of the process is, just kind of coming up with an idea, and then I like to put the animation at times in rhythm with the music. Just because it just feels natural to me, I guess.
We got about 3 minutes left. In that time, I wanted to ask each of you your primary influences as a filmmaker. So I know that could take up more than 3 minutes, but Matt, we'll start with you because you mentioned stop motion. Do you have stop motion heroes or people that you try to emulate and appreciate the work of?
Sure. Well, Harryhausen, obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
The king. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Funny story, or maybe it's not funny, but as a child, Medusa in Clash of the Titans used to terrify me.
Me too.
Where I would have to like run out of the room when that scene came on because she was so horrifying. Phil Tippett, actually, the guy that animated like the AT-ATs in Empire Strikes Back and The Rancor, and he did some of the initial work in Jurassic Park. He just had his film that he spent 30 years making.
Wow. Just
came out, and it's streaming on Shudder right now, and it's called Mad God. And I watched it for the first time Friday night, and it's just absolutely incredible. But yeah, and then I like a lot of the the bigger stop motion studios, their stuff. But then I'm also a huge like Stanley Kubrick fan. We were talking about Criterion earlier too. Kurosawa is a big influence for me as well. So yeah, those are a couple of
impeccable. Chandler, who has influenced your work? Is there one that sticks out primarily?
There's about 5 like individual like directors. I like Stanley Kubrick. I like Spielberg. I like David Fincher. I've been mentioning a lot. I like Paul Thomas Anderson, and I also like for like animation. I like probably Hayao Miyazaki. Like I grew up watching Spirited Away and stuff when I was a child, so yeah, just like all those 5, and then a bunch of other directors and stuff. But I mean, I don't think we have all day to list them, so it's all good.
Those are some good ones.
Thank you.
And no, we'll close it out with you. Primary influences, not just as a filmmaker, but maybe a storyteller as well.
Yeah, so yeah, I can take it a couple different ways. Director wise, I like Edgar Wright, Wes Anderson, Mariel Heller. But I mean, I really like I like a lot of children's films. I really do. I like the last 10 to 15 years of Disney stuff has been like I one of my kind of weird quirks is I think that the Frozen 1 and 2 should be held in the same esteem as like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and like these and storytelling wise, I think Disney does great storytelling. And Studio Ghibli, you know, some of the weirdness of the creatures and things like that. But also just on the children's side of things, I mean, Mr. Rogers is like that's what influenced me to get into children's kind of media, and it's what I think taught me to really, as I talked about with my film, like really respect the feelings and emotions of a child and not to look down on them, but to like they're on the same. You know, I have as much respect for the lives and feelings and ideas of children as I do for adults.
That's awesome. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you thinking of Chattanooga Film Festival to submit your work. We are proud to have presented it. And anybody who hasn't seen the Tennessee Filmmaker block yet, get on over there. You've got till Tuesday at midnight. So thanks again, and y'all have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.